Weeks ago, I made my top 25 coasters video, and in it I said I would make a full video on what the big problem with B&M Hypers was. Well, I mean, that's obviously this video, so today I'm explaining the big problem with B&M Hypers. First, you have to understand that other than Diamondback, which doesn't have this problem, no B&M Hyper ranks above number 20, yet none rank below number 35. This obviously means I think the 4 B&M Hypers that rank between number 20 and 35 are very similar in quality, and that right there is the issue. They are so painfully similar that I cannot tell them apart just based on forces. Yes, I know the layouts are different, but they actually really aren't. You hit the mid-course after an out and back sequence into a weak finale into the brakes. You might say, well, they all might be nearly identical, but they still pull very strong forces, which ranks them all high. But that simply is just not true. Being impartial here, there is ample weak floater airtime with no ejector, and that's just by the way they are designed. The hills aren't profiled to give ejector, they're profiled to give floater, and also it's B&M. To add on to that, there are zero intense elements on B&M Hypers, like no ejector, no snaps, no inversions, it's just weak camelback after weak camelback. If there's a 200 plus foot drop, there simply has to be better airtime and more interesting elements. Take Mako for example. The 200 foot drop creates a top speed of 73 miles an hour, and instead of using the speed for a speed hill, outer bank, or even an overbank, there's this useless maneuver that kills the speed. Then after the 5-second floater hill, there's a dry turnaround that reduces the speed even more, so the speed hill doesn't do nearly as much as say Steel Vengeance's speed hill. This definitely doesn't just apply to Mako though. Intimidator at Carowinds rises into a similar maneuver after the drop that reduces the pacing going into a big camelback. I get that if that wasn't there, the camelback would go into the parking lot, but one of those overbank-ish turns seen on Fury would be much more intense, maintain the speed, and stay in the park, and I think B&M knew that, but B&M Hypers aren't supposed to be intense. It's not like B&M doesn't know how to make intense coasters, just look at Fury or some other gigas, but they don't put any standout elements on their Hypers intentionally. This makes it so they're all similarly mid, and unless B&M wants to change the way they make their Hypers, none of them are going to be standouts. And I don't see them doing this either. Parks love that the Thuzies can enjoy some of the airtime, while GP absolutely adore the floater airtime. It's a great model for parks. Well, that is except Diamondback, and I mean that in a good way. Diamondback is one of 2 B&M Hypers with 16 row trains, and the airtime hits hard, like really hard, unlike Intimidator. There's a reason why Diamondback almost reaches my top 10, while second place Canobie barely reaches my top 20. I appreciate that on Diamondback. I can expect something different from Diamondback than literally every other B&M Hyper I've ridden. So overall, if we're not talking about Diamondback, you can't go wrong with the B&M Hyper, but you can't go right with it either.